So today we talk about love, the yoga of being in a love relationship. It's maybe a little bit an unusual subject in the yoga class, and maybe it also feels strange to call this the yoga of being in love. Saying that it is a yoga maybe feels like it's very difficult. And well, sometimes it is very difficult. I think sometimes it is more difficult than the most difficult asana. It requires more balance, more understanding, more control even. But this is not really why I'm calling it the yoga of love. I'm calling it the yoga because to be in a love relationship really is a kind of spiritual exercise that helps you on your spiritual path. Like all other kinds of yoga are helping you on your spiritual path to become more happy, to become more calm, and to eventually reach the state of enlightenment or something nearby if you want. So that is why I am calling this a yoga, and this is a very traditional view on love that comes from the Indian tradition. Now, love is a mystery. So today it is not like I am going to give you the ultimate recipe. I am not going to say, okay, you take 3 grams of passion and add 1 gram of compassion and put a little rose petals on top, play some nice music, and then it's done. No, it's not like that. It will always remain a mystery. Even after this class it will be a mystery, and that is very good. It should be a mystery. It is something very mysterious. It's something very strange, something which is not about understanding, something which is quite beyond understanding and should remain beyond understanding. But still we can try a little bit to understand it, because, well, if I look at my own love life, my own history there, I can see a lot of confusion. It is not easy. And well, when I look around me to other people, I usually find the same thing. So in that way, maybe it's good to a little bit talk about it and to a little bit better understand it, so that we can make a better job of it. And then, that is only good. But the main thing to remember is that whatever I am telling here, you should not too much be thinking about it when you are entering in a love relationship, or when you are, having a love relationship, because that should be a very natural thing happening. This should not be a very intellectual thing. So whatever I'm telling now, you should largely forget it afterwards, but still some of the information will be there and may be helpful to you whenever you are anyhow trying to understand it. Because that anyhow you cannot avoid. Sometimes you feel, oh, what is this? Why is this happening? And then maybe some of the things that we talked about today may help you to see more clear, and then again forget about all this understanding and again go for it. So this is important. Now, it's a little bit strange anyway to talk about it in terms of yoga, because there exists among many people who are involved with yoga the idea that the ascetic celibate yogi is the ultimate ideal. Somehow we got this idea that being spiritual and being into yoga may mean that ultimately we end up alone in a cave somewhere and be very enlightened. So that idea exists, maybe not among everybody who is involved with yoga, but many people who are involved with yoga have this idea, and I want to a little bit break down that idea, because that is actually a wrong idea. And it is important to talk about it because, well, only some weeks ago I had a lady coming to me for advice, And she told me, well, she broke up with her husband. And I asked her, okay, what did the guy do wrong? And she said, well, he didn't do anything wrong. He's actually really nice. But I felt that for my spiritual development, I needed to be on my own and leave him and leave this whole game of love, because it's too much distraction. And so that is why I do it. But now I'm feeling sad because I miss him. I feel lonely. And he is also feeling, of course, very bad about it. He doesn't understand it. So that's why she came to me for help. And I told her she was crazy. I told her to go back to her husband as soon as possible and pray that he still accept her. Because to find a good wife or a good husband about whom you actually have no really any complaints is a miracle these days. It is very difficult. So if you have it, you should keep it. And that will not at all be opposite to your spiritual development. Quite on the contrary, it will be very supportive for your spiritual development. And I'll be explaining that later, what I mean with that. But the main thing to understand is that this yogic ideal of the ascetic yogi who becomes a celibate for life is only a very recent development. And when I say recent, I mean like 8th century, 1200 years ago. There was you could say, struggle in India between Hindus and Buddhists. Buddhists at that time were really powerful because they had the support of the emperor of that time. And so Hindus thought we have to change a little bit our system so that we become more competitive towards Buddhism. And one of the things Buddhism had, which Hinduism did not have at that time, was the monk, the nun and the monk living in a monastery. This was unknown in Hinduism. There were spiritual communities, sure, ashrams, but there people were either living on their own or they are living with their partner. This was not supposed to be necessary to be a celibate at that time if you wanted to become a yogi. Most of the famous rishis of India, if you read the scriptures, they all had wives. And some were ladies, so they either had wives or husbands. I mean, don't want to say they're only men. But anyway, in the stories, most of them are men. And they are there with their wife, living either in an ashram, a spiritual community, or maybe just in what was called the Gurukul, the house of the Guru, where usually then also some other family members were living, and some students maybe were living. But this was supposed to be like that. Yoga in life. And of course it was known to retreat from life for some time. This was also very well known. But this was seen as a means, not as an end. This was seen as an exercise, a temporary thing, only to allow you to live a better life in life, with others, not on your own. So, in the ancient Vedic tradition, to become a renunciate, to become a celibate, was a temporary thing. And actually in the 4 typical stages of life that were found to be like important, there are only 2 stages in which the celibate life is more or less advisable. It is actually the first stage of the child, youngster, up to age more or less 25, where it was said to be good, to stay away from the opposite sex and, study and do yoga and keep this energy, this youthful energy, available for yoga in the more physical sense, I would say. But then later to become a grihast, which is meaning a householder, and marry and have children and have a job and, live the theory in practice in life. And then in the next stage you become like a little older and your kids are taking over the family business and you're more in the background and already turning a little bit more towards silence and meditation and all these things, but you are still in life, you are still having like a guiding role. And then there is the 4th and last stage in which indeed you withdraw from life, and then men indeed can leave their wives and wives can leave their husbands, and they each go their own way, and all that they're interested in at that time is meditation. And that is called sannyas, renunciate. So this is the original idea about this subject. Now, some people, as it is said, may be born sadhus, may be born sannyasis, meaning that already from a very young age, when they are coming into puberty and becoming, young men and women, they are not interested in any of these love stories. They immediately turn towards yoga, meditation, devotion, and have no interest in that sort of life. That is possible, but those are exceptions. Those are exceptions, and they can then become sadhus, no problem. And it is said then that, okay, maybe in former lives, they had already enough experience with this family life that they no longer need to do that, or are no longer interested in doing it, and are interested in doing something else. But most people do have this interest, do have this desire to find love, to be in a loving relationship, to be in a family, to have children, and they should not suppress this desire. This is very important, basic understanding of this subject. Becoming a sadhu should not be an escape. And this is what I see a lot in spiritual circles these days. People who are retreating from life, who are becoming celibate, but only because they want to escape from the game, because they've had many bad experiences in this game, and they become disappointed with it, they no longer believe in it, they no longer dare to play this game, so then they say, oh, now I'm become celibate. Now, this is their own choice, they are free to do that, but it is not going to be very helpful, because if this desire to have a love partner is there, it's not going to go away by meditation. This does not work. Fantasies can go away by meditation, sure. But the basic desires for which you have been born, they are there and they don't run off, because you seem not interested, because they are your desires, so basically you are interested. You are wanting that. So there's no use running away from it. Even in Hinduism, if you look at the stories of the deities, of the gods, then this is very clear. They are all couples. It's very, very difficult to find a Hindu god which does not have a wife, or to find a Hindu goddess which does not have a husband. They all have that. And if something is the ideal, then it is that, which is, the gods and the goddesses. They are ideal figures. So, quite clearly, there are so many stories about that, Shiva and Parvati, dancing in the Himalayas. There is Sita and Ram, wonderful love story. There is Krishna and Radha, of course. So many others, Brahma and Saraswati, they are all together, having some fun. So just to say that, the idea that, if you are into yoga, that sex is a bad thing, and that loving is a bad thing, and that having a love relationship is a bad thing, you should forget about it. You choose whatever you want. That is your freedom. You should not feel obliged by any kind of false morality to do either this or that. So this must be clear. Let's come back a little bit to a very essential question which relates to this. And that is the question, why are we here? Why is there a universe? Why was this universe created? I've said this a couple of times, but it's really very important. People in spiritual circles seem to believe that this whole thing was created for us to become enlightened. This is wrong. This is a stupid idea, basically. This whole universe was not needed for God to become enlightened, because God was enlightened when He started with this game. This universe was created for enjoyment. That's why we have many shapes and colors and sounds and all these things to play with. And to think that this world was only made for enlightenment actually means to think that God made a mistake when He created the universe. And after making that mistake, maybe, in his samadhi eternally, at some point, boom, something came out, and then he is there, looking at us in delusion. We are all in delusion here in this universe, thinking we are individuals and all that, And then he said, I'm really sorry. Come back to Papa, I didn't mean it, become enlightenment as fast as you can. No, this is a wrong idea. No? This is not how it is said in Scripture. In Scripture is very clearly mentioned and explained in many different ways with many different stories how this world was created for enjoyment. And enlightenment is only the last level of this game of enjoyment. After you have enjoyed enough, then you can play the last level, which is quite a difficult level, to again get out of it. But also quite an entertaining level. It's quite fun once you go on that path. We should not forget that we are God. We should not forget that we are, the essence of God, and that we are here by our own will. We are here because we want to be here. We are here because we want to play. And because we have certain desires. Desire and Shakti, which is the female goddess, are one and the same word in ancient Sanskrit. And there's even another word which is very much related to it, and that is Shakti as power, Shakti as life force. So if you go against your basic desires, you are going against your Shakti. You are going against your life force. You're going to kill yourself. Now, if your basic desire is to become enlightened, then sure, your Shakti will support it. But if your basic desire is just to have a lot of fun, but you think you cannot have any fun because you have this kind of idea that you should become enlightened, then your life force will not follow you. Understand? You will become ill. So, this is very important, to lay down all this morality about it. And when then it comes to life, there is one wisdom, let's say, that I would like to give to you, which I believe is the most important spiritual wisdom of all. And it's very simple. To enjoy a little vanilla ice cream with two people far outbeats enjoying the biggest ice cream ever made on your own. Now you think about this, and I think you will all find that this is true. Whatever enjoyment there is to be had in this universe, whether it be enjoyment of music or art or taste or whichever, having a walk in nature, to do it on your own, okay, it can also be fun. I'm not saying that if you're on your own you can't have any fun, sure. But be together with someone, or with some people, with a group of people who connect, who are really together, and who enjoy it together, is the ultimate enjoyment. In that way, love is the spice of life. Love is the spice of everything. Love is the ultimate sound. Love is the ultimate taste, and the most beautiful color. Without it, all tastes and colors and sounds and music are relatively dull. So, we say yoga is union, and we can see this as something very mystical, talking about cosmic consciousness and all these high ideas. But love being union, and union being yoga, means that yoga is love. And that to be in love is yoga. And that to live love, to live togetherness, is yoga, is the ultimate yoga. So, very important. Likewise, when we talk about the chakras, I was talking about some months ago, I was saying that the most important chakra of all 7 chakras is the heart chakra. because it is there in the middle. And to fully live from the heart chakra, okay, it may be important also to move up and learn in 5th chakra, 6th chakra, and on the way to 7th chakra. And 7th chakra may be the highest, but 4th chakra is the most important. And after you've been up there, then you still have to come back here and live from here with all that understanding and knowledge that you have gained, and live from love. Because love is the truth. The truth is that we all one. That is the truth. And from this oneness comes love. So, Sringara Rasa, the rasa of love. Rasa meaning emotional essence or mood. Sringara Rasa is the Rasa Raj, the king or queen of all the rasas. Some artists in India will say there is only one rasa, which is Sringara. All the other rasas only relate to it, are only expressions of it. So, love is very important, and it's only through love that the Maya, the illusion of the world, can become Leela or divine play. Only through love you can make this world into a divine theater. Otherwise it just becomes a common theater. So, then maybe, let's all fall in love and the problem is solved. Well, actually, that's not the answer. Because falling in love is happening all the time. People are falling in love very easily. To some people it happens more than once in a day. The problem is not the falling in love. The problem is the staying in love. People fall in love several times a day and they fall out of love again several times a day. No? So just falling in love is not the answer. Now what does it mean to fall in love? Well, to fall in love is a game played by the mind, but as usual with the ego at the center. And the ego has the idea that it has a problem. That is my personal definition of the ego of being the one who thinks there is a problem. You could also define the ego as the one who thinks he is this body, but okay, both are related. Now, the ego thinks he has a problem, and this problem takes many forms, but basically this is a problem of inexistence, uncertainty, a feeling of emptiness, a feeling of loneliness. So, and through falling in love, ego together with mind create a little bit of an illusion. The illusion that this other person, who is maybe a little smiling or, seeming attractive, is going to fill that emptiness. That is the illusion that is created when we fall in love. Suddenly this person, which may be a very normal person usually, nothing very special, but somehow we make something very special out of it. We make this person our ultimate savior, our ultimate friend, and we think this person is, absolutely good. And is never going to hurt us. Is never going to be selfish. And then shortly afterwards, this illusion collapses. And shortly, maybe after a few hours, or a few minutes, or a few months, or a few years, whatever. But if that is how the relation starts, by creating such an illusion, then at some point the illusion will go. And that real person will be there, will be standing there, and will see, okay, not bad, but not also so very special, as I let myself to believe. So the falling in love game is a game where we really create some kind of mirage, some kind of ideal image of a person which has little to do with the actual person, and which is creating many problems. Is creating a lot of pain. So if we want to do the yoga of love, we should start a little bit from a different point. We should start a little bit from wisdom, from yoga, from understanding the basic union of yoga, from understanding the importance of our togetherness, from understanding the fact that we are all one. And if you look at others in that way, if you can see the self behind the eyes of every person, then it's very easy to love every person. And then from that, also a different kind of more personal love relationship can start. And a little bit of falling in love, can also happen there, no problem, but it should not be where it starts. It should start really from a different angle. And there's no problem if in this way, through this little bit more personal relationship, the ego also gets some satisfaction. The ego also gets a little bit of reassurance. The ego also gets a little bit of, patting on the back. That is not a problem. But it should not start there. Everything which starts from thinking there is a problem is only going to end up in being a problem. So we should not start from there. We should start from understanding that everything is fantastic, that we are all fantastic, that every person sitting here is really fantastic, worthy of being loved, and capable of loving, if it is, a little bit happening in the right way. Now, so we have to see a little bit now this difference between, let's say, universal love and the love between two people. Because there is also the yoga of love in the sense of the yoga of universal love. This is the actual Shringara sadhana, in which in the morning you make a little promise, okay, today I will love everybody whom I meet. I will not discriminate. Usually we are very discriminative. We try not to be discriminative about the color or the sex of people or something, but in fact we are all very discriminative all the time because this one I like, but this one, all the time, without really any good reason, just, from how we feel, from some, different kind of way of behaving with that person or something, we easily say no. So to do this sadhana means that you try, to love everybody, really look in the eyes, really see the soul behind it, and from that you can really love everybody. But it's not an easy exercise. I mean, to do it for a day is quite all right and very advisable. Anybody wants to give it a try, it's really good exercise. You learn a lot about yourself by doing that. To do it for a couple of days, also not, wrong. But to do it for longer than that, well, it's not easy. It's not easy because some people are hard to love. So it is not so easy. And as I said, to see behind the eyes of the person is the key. Like there is this saint called Ram Dass, maybe some may know him. He has written a famous book called Be Here and Now. It was like one of the first yoga books in the West who became popular in the 60s. It was really like an old hippie. And he had this teacher called Neem Karoli Baba. And so at some point Neem Karoli Baba told him that his basic exercise in life, his basic yogic exercise was to love everybody. So okay, Ram Dass was working with that. And then at some point he realized, if I have to love everybody, then I also have to love George Bush. which he felt was very difficult because he didn't like George Bush. As well, some people also didn't really like George Bush. He's not an easy person to like, for many people. But okay, he said, I have to try. So he had this kind of puja place, like a shrine, where there were Ganesh and his teacher and other deities. And so he took a picture of George Bush and put it there also and tried to, worship George Bush with the same kind of devotion and love that he was feeling for these other pictures or people in these other pictures. And it was hard. But at some time, suddenly he realized, oh God, what a lousy incarnation. So he understood somehow deep inside, somebody has to be George Bush. George Bush somehow is needed in, the whole game. And somebody has to play this role. And this somebody who is inside George Bush, who is playing George Bush, is not different from anybody else. Is exactly the same. So by seeing that person or soul or self inside, behind the eyes of George Bush, he could very easily love George Bush, even while he might still disagree with him on some things. But that's a different thing. So this is what this yoga of universal love is about, and then this can also be practiced in like karma yoga, where we are doing service for the universe, indiscriminative, or with actual bhakti yoga, where we are having devotion towards maybe an image of the divine or whatever you like, it can be Krishna, and you put some flowers, and every day you are, expressing your love, like a lover will give a flower to his beloved. You are giving a flower to the divine. This is something which plays with your mind and also your subconscious mind and creates a different attitude in life. So all these yogas exist. I'm not going to really talk about it here because we talk about it in other classes, but it is part of this game. But so we can understand that if we look at the self, then it is easy to love everybody. But if we look at the form, then it is more difficult. So that is a very important key to understand. Now, understanding is one thing. To put it into practice is another thing. As I said, it's not easy to really love everybody. It's quite difficult. And actually, there's also no real need to love everybody. The main thing is to love the people around you. Some spiritual people are thinking, universal love, sending their best wishes to the people living on the planet Mars. Well, they're actually not having a good relationship with their neighbors. So this is how one also should see it. My teacher used to say, if everybody is your friend, then you have no real friends. Now I always felt that was a little bit like a harsh thing to say, because it seems so very nice to look upon everybody as being your friend, and that's good. But what he meant at that point was, you should a little bit concentrate on what is around you, and there try to live this universal love, with the people around you. Because on the planet Mars, God also is there, There also it can happen. And it can happen here, and it can happen in India, and it can happen in the United States, and it can happen everywhere. In every village, in every family, in every small, local community, this can happen, and that way everybody will be taken care of. We don't need to take care of everybody all by ourselves. That is just an ego game to think like that. So, very important to be aware of the importance of your local community. Like, I remember also when we used to talk with my teacher about teaching, that he said, before you go out in the world and travel around to teach. First you should start teaching the children in your street. When you have not done that, why would you go anywhere else? So this is important to understand this local aspect of spiritual work in general and love in particular. And then so from the community and the neighbors, we can come to the people who are really near and dear to us, our family, our close friends, and our partner. And the partner is usually the most close to us. And there we can live this universal love in the best possible way together with that one person. And so this is a little bit the ideal of, let's say, Hindu marriage, no? That two people come together like this and try to exercise, try to live universal love with just the two of them, for starters.